we spent several years building a relationship, doing some small deals together, doing some larger deals together, until we came up with the concept for what we would build. And my learnings had always been, if you're going to create and build a celebrity-backed and fronted business, it needs to be truly authentic to who that person is.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by James Williams, CEO of Mayweather Boxing Fitness. In this episode, we talk about partnering with boxing legend Floyd Mayweather to launch the boutique fitness franchise. We discuss the company's path from one studio to more than 75 global locations. Plus, James shares plans for branded nutritional supplements, consumer products, and VR workouts. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by Jack Taylor, our exclusive PR partner. More than just PR, they're creative storytellers and brand builders who actually understand the health and wellness industry. To learn more, head to fitt.co/Jack Taylor. That's FITT.co/Jack Taylor. Hi, James. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's great to chat. Glad we could connect.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and look forward to talking.
Yeah, a lot to get into from the boutique fitness scene, trends in fitness, both in person and at home, certainly around modalities as well. But for the sake of maybe kicking off the conversation and an introduction to yourself, why don't you tell the folks about your background and about the Mayweather boxing concept?
My background, I was a corporate lawyer back in London and New York in a different life a long time ago. I spent about 10 years working at Bain Consulting in London, South Africa, moved out to the West Coast with Bain. And like everybody kind of in LA, had a lot of friends and people who I knew who were in the media, entertainment, sports worlds. And so I ended up leaving Bain with a few buddies from there to build a venture consulting firm that worked with athletes and entertainers to build out businesses with and for them. So I spent about 5 years working with Beyonce, building out a clothing brand called Ivy Park, which is a joint venture between her and Topshop. Ultimately, we acquired that Topshop stake and transitioned that into an Adidas license deal. So I spent a long time with her working on that. Spent time with other athletes doing similar types of businesses. And around the same time, maybe 10, 11 years ago from now, got introduced to Floyd. And Floyd was quite unique for a top tier iconic athlete in that he had always chosen to not take any major licensing deals or sponsorships or endorsement. He was very shrewd in the way that he built his own personal brand. And he said he wanted to maintain the brand equity and the Mayweather name so that he could build out a business or a series of businesses that were important to him, that he was passionate about, that he wanted to spend his time on. And that would ultimately be his legacy outside of boxing. So that was kind of the original genesis of our company. We spent several years building a relationship, doing some small deals together, doing some larger deals together, until we kind of came up with the concept for what we would build. And my learnings had always been, if you're going to create and build a celebrity-backed and fronted business, it needs to be truly authentic to who that person is. I think there's a lot of things out there where celebrities are putting their names on things and they don't care about them truly, and they're not passionate about it, and it's not something that they're going to lean into. And consumers can really sniff that out and understand if somebody's not truly authentic to what they're doing. And so for us, there's nothing really more authentic to Floyd than boxing and fitness. And that was ultimately the genesis of the company that we're building together.
Yeah, I think there's so many points and kind of strings that I want to pull as we talk about celebrity and athlete partnerships, the evolution of those relationships, authenticity, all those being so key to what makes this work. But for the sake of context, you mentioned working on a number of deals together and then kind of landing on the kind of fitness concept. How long have you been working on the studio concept now? At what stage, or how would you kind of categorize where that business is, just to kind of set the stage before we dive in?
Yeah. So the kind of company that we created is called Mayweather Fitness Holdings, and that's the portfolio holding company for all of Floyd's businesses in health, wellness, and fitness. And I can talk about the new businesses that we're launching in a little bit, but the first business line is our boutique brick and mortar gym franchise called Mayweather Boxing Fitness. We opened our first location in LA January 2018. That was the first time we really tested a consumer response to a Mayweather branded fitness product. Producers were all about financial projections for that. So it was great. We're like, okay, perfect. People are into this concept. We then started franchising in 2019, opened our first franchise location in September of 2019. I'll never forget the first post that Floyd made about the gym franchise business. We had roughly 7,000 applications for franchises just from Floyd saying, hey, I now have a gym franchise and you can come and be an owner of a gym that's branded my name and that has my workouts and my systems. So that was a really cool moment. That was the first time we really tested a business response to Mayweather branded fitness products. And we had this huge response to it, which was really great and exciting. We opened that first franchise location in September 2019. And we had just 5 locations open in March of 2020 when COVID hit. Today we have about 75. So we've had this great growth over the past 3 years. I think it really is a testament to the power of his brand in fitness over that time, being able to not just sign up new franchisees who are kind of bullish on the brick and mortar fitness industry post-COVID, but also to open those locations and to support the operations and the growth of them. So we had obviously, like everybody else, a roller coaster ride over the last 3 months, but at a macro level, our studio openings grew significantly, our system revenue grew significantly, and we're now at the stage where we are transitioning from kind of a startup franchisor into that emerging phase. Being able to hire better people, being able to invest more back into the system, and really kind of looking forward to what's happening in that part of the fitness market over the coming months and years.
Yeah, we'll get to what that looks like as well as the other business lines and potentially business units. But you mentioned, putting out kind of the announcement, right, about the franchise and opening the studio, 7,000 people inbound, which is great to see, of course, and then growing even kind of in the midst and then in the wake of COVID from 5 to 75 studios now being in a place to ramp up. It's like that is the case study positively for working with an athlete slash celebrity and it going super well and it being authentic and all the pieces kind of lining up. I think everybody who envisions whether it's a partnership, an endorsement, even like influencer type posts online, like, oh, that's how it goes well, right? And that's the type of reception that we want. It doesn't always play out that way. And it sounds like you've had a lot of experience, I'm sure positively and potentially negatively as well, trying to figure out like, how do we navigate this? How do we make it work? And so that it is authentic, we are leveraging the brand in a meaningful way. How do you think about, is there a framework or a checklist or even some, points that you look at and say, this is how we know that it will work or should work? And these are maybe pitfalls that we want to avoid to, not either ruin that relationship, tarnish their brand, or maybe even suffer a setback in the business.
Yeah, I do. I think it goes back to the passion that person has for the business and the authenticity that the concept is to them. Like building on that point of those franchise applications that we had initially, our franchise acquisition cost for our first 50 franchisees was $0. So to your point, like that was the great things of having somebody like Floyd be not just the marketer and the promoter of the business, but the brand itself and the name above the door. But then we had learnings on other parts of the business. So if we think about Mayweather Boxing Fitness, we've got to bring in great new qualified franchisees, and then we've got to help those franchisees sell memberships and grow their business. And we had some learnings on that side, like as we think about how we leveraged Floyd for membership sales for our franchisees, we really led with that to begin with. And we learned that we could get really strong performance on digital advertising, particularly on cost per lead, but that we had to learn over time the messaging that Floyd was putting out there. And sometimes people would see Floyd boxing in a studio and they would just assume that it's a boxing class or you're learning to become a boxer. And so we had to then take that step and learn about the creative that we would continued to put out there that educates the consumer more quickly that no, this is not, you're not becoming a professional fighter like Floyd. It's group fitness, it's fun, it's burning calories, it's being part of a community. And so there are things where we learned over time how best to leverage him. At first, all of our franchisees wanted Floyd to come to their studio opening. And we tried to facilitate that as much as possible. Like Floyd loved to come to openings, and he still comes to select ones. But it wasn't a great member experience. You know, you're a member, you want to come in and burn calories, you want to be part of a community, and now you've got the media and you've got people there who aren't even members of the gym. So we then said, okay, how do we leverage Floyd in the best way, and how can we scale the things that he can do? And we then spent a lot of time filming Floyd doing all of our boxing workouts. So on the screens in all of our studios, it's Floyd himself taking you through those things. We have live instructors, but Floyd is leading the instruction of that. We do a lot of marketing content with him. We do things where if you win a certain contest as a franchisee, then you come in and have dinner with Floyd. Or we do member contests, you know, most classes taken, most calories burned, different things over different competitions that we do, where then you get flown into Vegas. We actually have one next Friday night where we've got members from all over our system who are being flown into Vegas, and we're doing a huge kind of 100-person dinner with Floyd, with members, with franchisees. That's the way to kind of leverage him in a scalable way.
Yeah, I think that's all really smart and interesting to hear that kind of evolution. You risk not only burning him out as an individual person, but the brand and the even the experience of him being there. It's like it kind of loses its luster, because you said it gets lost in all of these other things. That it's not even about the experience or the member or the franchisee, which like that is the business at the end of the day.
That's right. The three words we use for Floyd are impactful, scalable, and sustainable. And so there are certain things, if you have a celebrity as big as Floyd who's willing to put in the work and engage, and you can get them to do the things across those three components, I think that's how you best leverage them. And again, like this is Floyd's business. This is not just Floyd lending his name. This is Floyd being the owner of the business. We have a wide range of franchisees, from kind of small private equity firms who are building out multiple locations, multi-unit owners of other concepts, but also Floyd's sister, Floyd's cousin, you know, one of Floyd's oldest business partners. So he's all in on both sides of it. He sits on the franchisor side, but he's got people really, really close to him who are also on the franchisee side.
Yeah. Maybe one more question on this, you know, the partnership, athlete, celebrity side before we get into more of the kind of fitness aspect of it. How do you think about, in doing a partnership like this, you mentioned this is Floyd's business, that approach versus at times what you see is like the athlete partnership celebrity in name only, right? They're putting their name on it, but it's not their business. They're not really invested. Whether or not it succeeds, like obviously their investment in time and interest and willingness to show up, like you say, like that dictates the outcome. Are you able to kind of tease that out up front? Do you just evaluate that, or at what point are you able to say, okay, great, like we're able to go all in on this?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the motivations and inclinations of the particular person. Floyd, I mean, as his name suggests, Floyd Money Mayweather, right? He made so much money in boxing, and he set himself up so well in certain investments that he's made for the long term that he doesn't ever need anything else. And so what works so well with him is he truly understands the concept of long-term enterprise value creation, which means his goal is, you know, over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, we build the parent company into something that has a series of businesses under it. You know, the gyms, we've got nutritional supplements coming, we've got VR game coming, we've got consumer fitness products coming, that becomes a legacy in and of itself. Like no one can dispute that Floyd, I mean, I would say the greatest boxer of all time. Some people would say one of the greatest, but, you know, Floyd is certainly the most successful boxer of all time, 50 wins, 0 losses. That can never be taken away. What gets interesting to him is now having transitioned from athlete to businessman in the ring, creating Mayweather Promotions and earning so much money as a promoter as well as a fighter, taking that next step in the evolution into being a global business mogul. And that's what's really interesting and exciting to him. And it makes it so good for us as his team, because he looked to the 5 year. He's not saying, hey, I know I can go in and do an endorsement deal for several $1 million here. What does it look like from a short-term cash basis? He's like, no, how do we build a strong foundation here that sets the company up for long-term success? And then you go from being Floyd Mayweather, the superstar boxer, to being Floyd Mayweather, the global business icon as well. And I think that's having that alignment early and being clear from my side as his co-founder and partner, and his side, how do we want to do this? Because there's a number of different ways. And like you say, you can go get a big endorsement deal, big sponsorship license deal where somebody's just paying you and you're doing a certain set of services, or you can go all in and really be the business owner and build that thing in the way that is the right way to do it for you and your brand.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to the show in just a second. But first, I wanted to tell you about our exclusive PR partner, Jack Taylor. Honestly, this one's a no-brainer. We've known the Jack Taylor team for years. They work with some of the most innovative health and wellness companies. We're talking Whoop, Athletic Greens, Hyperice, and many more. Jack Taylor has an extensive industry network, knows how to work with high-growth companies, and really invests in building long-term relationships. I know this firsthand because they're Fitt Insider's PR agency, so I can confidently recommend them, and I do all the time. From startups to more established brands, they go beyond pushing product to help companies truly thrive. To learn more, head to fit.co/Jack Taylor. That's FITT.co/Jack Taylor. Now back to the show. Yeah, it's exciting, I'm sure, and fun, and all all these different elements come together where it's like, oh, we get to set out, like you said, with a long-term view and really build something meaningful, put the pieces together, have a roadmap, understand what we're executing against, and not doing short-term transactional, very short-sighted things. And as you start to do that, it makes a ton of sense thinking about this parent company and then the different kind of products and offerings that come out underneath that. Looking at back to the studio concept, as you said, people showing up and maybe thinking that they're going to learn how to be a professional boxer, or it's like a fight club or training camp, versus Mayweather Fitness and boxing, both having fitness in the name, thinking about that evolution. How much went into that from thinking about, okay, what is best suited to Floyd and the brand and authentic to him, versus, hey, where is the kind of boutique fitness landscape as it relates to what is a boxing concept versus a mixed martial arts concept versus a cardio concept, and how do all those pieces fit together?
Yeah, totally. It kind of worked in parallel. So we started with, okay, Floyd, what do? What are your workouts, and how adaptable are those to a boutique fitness concept? How digestible are they to a typical fitness consumer? And if you take them at their very, very core, you're not going to be able to scale that because it's too intense. Floyd probably works out harder than almost anybody else. But you take the principles of those and then fit those into what's working in the market from a boutique fitness perspective. And look, we were super lucky. Boxing group fitness was thriving at the time that we conceived the idea, is thriving today, and is one of the fastest growing categories in boutique fitness and in fitness generally. So we got lucky that there was a popular fitness modality that worked so well with who he is and what he does and what he stands for. And then we said, okay, what are the other things that you do as your workout, Floyd, and how do we immerse those into the products? And Floyd has always trained boxing and fitness simultaneously. His workouts, he always does the boxing piece and a functional training piece. And so that became the core of our workout. And I think we got quite lucky, especially how the market's evolved over the last 5 years. And in boutique, people are looking for more variety. Strength is a big piece of where growth is coming from right now, variety in the workout itself. And from day one, we have a meaningful component of the workout that's non-boxing. So that's where the name itself came from, boxing and fitness. And that's what Floyd's workouts always were. So we take the core principles of what he does, and a lot of the actual workouts themselves. So he's kind of involved in that. And what does that mean in terms of what you're doing on a daily basis, the equipment that was put into the studio. And so that kind of variety in the workout, I think, is super important, even more so now than it was 5 years ago when we came up with the idea. And so some of our classes now, we have a new class called Embody, where there's no boxing at all. And it's actually our most popular class. So as we think about our member journey, they see a digital ad, for example, or they drive by Mayweather studio, they're enticed and they're excited by the fact that this is a concept by Floyd. Then we educate them through that kind of lead funnel, that it's boutique fitness, that it's fun, that you're burning calories, that you're part of a community. And then when you come in and start taking classes, there's natural attrition that happens in boxing, with sore shoulders and sore fists and wrists. And by having our non-boxing workout, we're really driving member retention and the ability for people to come in and say, hey, I love boxing, but I only want to do it once or twice a week. I want to do another 1 or 2 classes a week. Previously, they might go elsewhere to do that, either home fitness or another studio. Now we're able to capture more of their time working out and use that equipment that was integral to everything that Floyd did and is now integral to everything that we're doing here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Just even in terms of keeping people engaged, right? And the variety and make sure they're having fun, all those things that go into it. One of the things that tends to come up as you look at it, it's like, I don't know if you have a perspective on how you mentioned the journey of the member and varying the classes and the formats and the equipment. Is it tempting? How tempting is it to see, oh, strength is, gaining in popularity, or people seem to be gravitating towards, you name whatever the modality or approach is, like, oh, we have to introduce something. Do we have another concept? Is it a class? Like, are we missing out? Or do you feel like, hey, we can do it the way that you've approached it thus far, which is like, we have this kind of funnel, Floyd being the kind of top of the funnel, getting them into it, educating them, and then varying it in any other way just to keep it fun? Or is it like, oh no, we have to tap in on this trend, this demand, this interest that might be out there?
I think that if you have a great product, which we do, I think that always has to be your North Star. And that's really what it is for us. We do look at what's happening in the market, of course, and we do start to integrate some of those trends. But I think if you try to move too quickly based on what's happening in the market and you're not true to your core, I think it becomes challenging. I think both from an experience perspective for your members, like what really is the product, also from a marketing perspective, like how are you communicating that to both new and existing members. And Floyd was super interesting the way that he trained. Like, it's kind of old school. It's addressing that demand, but we still stay true to everything that we are. And for example, Floyd would never have all of the latest gadgets, like or technology, like the way that he would train is very raw and very basic. And although we integrate technology into our studios, we don't kind of dart around and look for the latest, greatest, newest thing. We say, hey, we know we've got a killer product. If we can deliver that exceptionally in every studio, people are gonna come back.
Yep. Focus on that core value and maintain that authenticity, I think, are the things that through line through the entire partnership and the experience. Looking at, you mentioned now getting to a place where kind of 75 franchises, really focusing on growing that pipeline. Is there a target, or do you look at, hey, we want to sell or open X number this year, next year, the next 5 years? Or is it now just honing that process, making sure that you're selecting the right kind of franchisees and then ramping up for there? How do you think about growth on that front?
It's more so the latter. Real focus now and investment is into those open locations, like driving forward economics, getting those guys really strong ROI metrics, whilst bringing on new franchisees as well. So we're certainly still bringing on new candidates. We've learned over the past 3 years who our best performers are, and therefore able to go out and self-select for those. So as we bring in new candidates in, we know we're getting stronger operators with the types of experience that we know works well for our model. So it's certainly kind of building that domestic footprint, continuing to open locations, continuing to drive unit economics for those studios and franchisees. We're also expanding internationally. We are opening 2 locations in Dubai later this year. Floyd will go out there. We'll have these big events, and we've got a lot of things going with the city there and with the media. So as we think about international expansion, we've signed 2 other deals, one in Japan, one in Uzbekistan. So we have a lot of inbound interest for that. As Floyd goes on exhibition fights around the world, I kind of go with him, and it's the easiest environment to get deals done. Floyd, the whole city is around a fight that he's doing, and he's setting up meetings for potential master franchisees. So international expansion for sure is on the pipeline, and something that I think will continue over the next year or so quite meaningfully, especially as Floyd continues his exhibitions. And then beyond that, it's really launching the new business lines, and nutritional supplements and sports hydration we'll have coming next year, VR game next Christmas, and then a bunch of consumer products. So we've got that foundation for the gym franchise. We've got an incredible team, both from franchise development, sales and operations, marketing perspective. And now we're able to really leverage that platform to launch and build these new business lines.
Yeah, it's coming together, the pieces as you're describing it, that almost the Floyd flywheel, right, is in full effect. You're now the studios, the global expansion, the now we hey insert the partnership conversation here from a franchise perspective, insert the products here from a new business unit perspective. Do you think of it as the studio is a wedge into supplements, is a wedge into extending the brand that way, or do you see them as kind of independent businesses in and of themselves that happen to integrate in some ways? Like, are they serving the same audience, different audiences, functioning independently, and so on?
It's for sure an ecosystem. So as we look to build these new businesses, the foundation of the gym franchise is a huge component to that. So our core will always be the gym franchise. We have fantastic relationships with our franchisees. They are custodians of Floyd's brand. We're custodians of their investment future. So that'll always be the core. And we've had this huge growth and exponential growth in system revenue. But that's been constrained, if you think about it from our corporate perspective, by the fact that it takes $450,000 on average to build one out. It takes 12 months to do so with real estate, permitting, construction. And then your consumer has to live within whatever it is, 2 to 4 miles of the location. You basically take those constraints off now as you think about something like nutritional supplements. So going direct to consumer, going through wholesale distribution channels, retail distribution channels, our expectation is that business just grows significantly, but that we are able to leverage the gyms in both ways. So franchisees have new product lines to sell in those retail stores. We have our own stores that we'll sell them through, and we can get reviews and things like that from it. On the retail side, we'll have QR codes on those products that take you to the Mayweather locations page and drive foot traffic into the studios. So we really do see it as kind of an ecosystem where each of the business units can drive the others. We're also in development of a TV show, The Making of Mayweather, where it's kind of drawing back the curtain on Floyd and his fitness businesses. And so he's on the jet, landing in franchise locations around the country and around the world, in the lab with the lab coat, mixing the supplements. And then you see a show like that on Netflix, and now you're driving past a Mayweather studio, and that'll drive people into the doors of the franchise location. So as we think about all of the different things we're doing, it's how do we build them in an ecosystem where they drive overall awareness to Mayweather branded fitness products and businesses. They drive foot traffic to the gyms. They drive awareness and sales of consumer products. So I think that all of these different things will feed into each other. Floyd has a 70% consumer awareness. So 7 in 10 people in the world know who he is. Not that many people know what Mayweather Boxing Fitness is, is the business. So as we build these new business lines, the consumer awareness of the businesses will grow and drive success of those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all the pieces fit together, and different ways to introduce people, to upsell them, cross sell them. All those things fit into it. obviously you're very focused on what this business looks like, getting the different business units in place, making sure that this ecosystem makes sense, and then kind of promoting it holistically, and making sure that the franchisees feel like they're getting the appropriate amount of promotion relative to the other kind of products that maybe are getting released. When you step back and look at the broader kind of health and fitness, if you think about it as an industry or even product supplement studios, the thing that goes through my mind is 7 in 10 people know about Floyd, and over time, 7 in 10, 5 in 10, whatever the number is, are going to know about the different products. You can go out and have a series on Netflix. The most brands can't; they have to buy TV commercials or whatever the promotion is. And then when you just look at other kind of influencer owned or promoted businesses, of course, Mr. Beast comes to mind with like the exposure that he gets launching his own businesses. Like, how do other people compete? Like, how does the broader industry say, like, well, how do we get exposure relative to this kind of global athlete? And then how do you continue to utilize it in a way that, you're building this foundation and launching these new products that it does feel, there's a spectrum, right? In terms of, is this a very high end premium brand? Is it a budget everyday brand? Obviously, it's somewhere in the middle, and how that fits relative to the competition. I guess the question is like, do you think about it in terms of a competitive sense, or do you think about it as like, hey, let's just focus on what we're doing, leverage the kind of tools and assets that we have, and it'll kind of take care of itself?
The latter, more so. We keep abreast of what's happening in the market and the competition, but we try not to dictate our strategy based on what other companies are doing. I think certainly with the growth in the fitness industry and the categories that we play in, if we hit our product right every time and we operate in an efficient way, there's certainly room for significant growth there. So we think about, how do we grow our businesses in the most compelling way? How do we leverage Floyd in the most significant way to each of those business units? And you're exactly right. Like, with respect to the franchisees, it always has to start there. They're the ones who've invested into building out those locations. That's, as we think about things like the TV show, that's the core component of it. But knowing that it's going to have this halo effect to all of these other businesses. Floyd has whatever it is, 25 million followers on Instagram. We can talk to consumers at a scale that other people can't, instantly and on a daily basis. And so the things that we think through is, how do we do that in the most compelling way? And how do we do that in ways that stay consistent and don't have the audience tiring of what the messaging and the concept and the product is? And how do you do it in interesting and engaging ways? And so things like the TV show, I think, is going to be really cool. Things like the gym members purchasing products and reviewing those, and then people who are buying products directly in stores, finding out about the gyms that way. It's just things where the ability to get into retail stores, Floyd having a meet and greet and inviting the CEO of X chain to the next fight, sit ringside, having in-store displays with Floyd there that drives traffic into those retailers, leveraging, like I say, impactful and scalable and sustainable ways to utilize the biggest athlete out there, the biggest boxer out there in each of these different channels. And I think that that's a big piece for us. Is, okay, how do we build a relationship with a retailer whereby we get preferential placements? We get in-store advertising, we get all the things that a brand that is starting out wouldn't get, or that an established brand would have to pay for.
For sure. And then maybe a couple more questions before we get you out of here. To that point, you mentioned earlier, like some learnings on the marketing, some of the promotion, getting the franchises scaled up, certainly having kind of a head start as it relates to this access, whether it's consumer or retailer or awareness, all those things. Then it really sounds like, at the end of the day, it comes down to executing. Like, how do we build this team? How do we think about getting the best people? How do we think about, hey, we already have all these other things going for us. Like, how do we make sure that we essentially come up behind it and really deliver on all of that? How do you think about, talent and execution from like that team and culture perspective to like really make sure you hit this out of the park on all the different fronts?
Yeah, a few things. certainly hiring the best team, right? And I think we're there now in the gym franchise business, and that means investing into it. We're still young in terms of the number of locations, but we invest heavily into that franchise business, both from an infrastructure perspective and from a senior and overall team perspective. We also leverage Floyd for that. Like our CMO, I believe, is the best CMO in the whole of boutique fitness. I was courting her for a year, and she came from a huge company, and so it's hard to get her to come to a smaller company. So we flew her into an event that we did with Floyd. I whispered to Floyd, "Hey, this is the one. We need to get her." And he invites her over, her husband, her kids, spends an hour with them, just charming her. After that, she goes, "I'm in, and this is amazing. I see the vision. I see that it's truly his company. He's bought into it. He's going to make it a success. And that's something that I want to be a part of." So, there is the style factor that we can leverage also for recruiting and engaging and motivating our teams. But for sure, talent in the fitness industry is key. And we have an incredible team that we've managed to recruit over time. And I think it's been a combination of, it's an exciting company to work for because you are partnered with a huge celebrity, and there's lots of things that come as benefits to that. But we're also at the phase now where it's not a startup company, and so we over the past 6, 9, and 12 months have been able to hire a really talented C-suite team that are going to grow in that franchise business in a really compelling way. So I think it's a combination of investment and doubling down on kind of what we've already put into the franchise system, knowing that it's going to be a big success. And as always, leveraging Floyd to get the deals done.
Yeah, kind of all systems go at this point on all fronts. A lot happening: studios, supplements, consumer products, VR, mentioned all those. As we wrap up and get you out of here, anything else that we missed, right, that you want to, hey, keep an eye out for? Or generally, if no, like, as all these things start to roll out, where's the best place to follow along? Where would you point people to keep up with the journey?
I think we covered the most of it. Like I say, those new businesses start to launch in 2024, so we're so excited about that, and just doubling down on investment into the franchise system. So that's it. The core of our business is gym franchises, always will be, and we've got these amazing new business lines that will launch from that. So MayweatherFranchise.com is our franchise website. Mayweather Boxing Fitness is our Instagram. Floyd's is Floyd Mayweather. You'll see the only thing he has in his bio is Mayweather Boxing Fitness. But yeah, we've got a lot of good things coming. And so those are the places where you can see a little bit more about it.
Yeah, we definitely encourage people to check that out. We'll have everything in the show notes. And of course, it was great hearing about it, getting the update from you. So thanks for making some time today.
Appreciate it, Joe. Really great talking with you.
One more thing before you head out: help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fit Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.